What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back. My name is Chris Shavarma, and this channel is dedicated to skill practice in the realm of fitness. Today, I want to talk about a very interesting subject, and that is how to build up your running volume incrementally week after week so that you can prepare for really long runs. In your case, it might be a half marathon, but in my case, I'm trying to prepare for a 100-mile ultra marathon. That means I need to run 4 marathons in a row, and I only have 30 hours to finish that race. So let's talk about it, and I hope you're ready to build up that endurance. So let's turn up the volume. I know we're all different. We all have different body types. We all have different sizes, different weights. My approach is not universal. I'm trying to find a way to develop this skill of running more that also fits my body, my mindset, my capacity. And running 3 times per week seems reasonable for me right now. I might do some weeks where I run 4 times, but certain ultra marathon runners, they run every day. For the time being, I don't have the ability to train that much. And at this phase of my training, I don't think that would be a good idea neither. So building up that volume with 3 runs seemed like the perfect solution for me because I'm running Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then I rest until Sunday so I can feel fresh for that longer run. The more and more I put volume at the end of the week on that long run, the more I'll notice how well my body is responding to the half marathon on Tuesday, because I only have 1 rest day in between. So what do I do in order to maximize my regeneration? And there are certain things I like to do. And this starts already the day before my run. I don't like to get extremely full, but I need to feel satisfied at the end of the day for my run the next day, because I always run on an empty stomach. Preparing like this means that I will be able to tap into the fat resources more easily than as if I would have a full meal before running. Now, I fast every day, so this is what I'm used to. I wouldn't like to change anything about it. Maybe I'll try out eating a little bit of oats before the longer runs as these become incrementally longer. But right now, this is a working system, and as you know, there's a saying, never change a working system. So I'm going to see for how long I can use the system until it stops working. Now, what's my strategy during the run? I do have a fueling strategy, and that is to take a 250 milliliters bottle. I'll put sugar, salt, and green tea in it, or matcha. And the sugar is not a source of energy or calories, strictly talking. It's just a way to bump up my sugar levels so that I don't feel like my energy is dropping all of a sudden. I do have to say that running at these very slow paces doesn't make my body react with those type of sugar drops. This has worked wonders for me, and I don't like to use these gels or whatnot. I found out through research what runners would do back in the day, as there were no such things as gels. Now, for some people it might feel inconvenient to carry along such a bottle, but for me it's not a problem. It's a very small bottle. Maybe I'll link it down below, and it works. So if it's working for you, keep on doing it. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. You will have to find a way to accommodate strategies and see what works best for you. Now, first things first, I have never done such a thing like running an ultra marathon. 100 miles, 4 marathons in a row, never. The longest run I've ever had and finished was 64K, and I was completely unprepared for it. It took me forever to finish, had shin splints, blisters, my legs hurt, I had cramps, so on and so forth. So I needed to find a way on how to avoid this type of misery, because I know I'm going to be miserable, but I wish that misery comes at around the last part of that race. So my usual classical approach was to have 3 runs every week, 10K, maybe a 16K, and then a 12K, but I would always test myself. That means I always wanted to run a 10K under 45, at around 47 if I'm doing like a moderate push. My half marathon at around 140 to 145 in the best case scenario, but I always aimed to under 1 hour and 50 minutes. Now this is not a high level. I'm not a fast runner. I'm 43 years old, so I wasn't expecting to be at 110, 120 for a half marathon, but I did like to test myself. The problem was that running a 21K for me at a 145 pace meant that I would have some pretty deep fatigue the day after, and maybe even the day after that. Now, if I wanted to build up my volume, this approach would just mean trouble. I would have such a deep fatigue and I would feel so drained that I would risk injuries. Why? Because also this fast motion in fast runs is very strenuous. And I wanted to find an approach where I could sustain a pace for such long runs like an ultra marathon. So I started looking into the research, I guess, and I came across Phil Maffetone. Triathletes use his methods and principles a lot, and he found a way, a formula of finding out what the heart rate for your specific body is, so that you can distinguish the moment when you start using glycogen and when you start using fat as a fuel source. In my case, it was around 143. Turns out that's just around the limit of my aerobic zone, which is zone 3. The initial approach, in order to work yourself into this heart rate level and develop efficiency for such a thing, is to start with zone 2 training. Now, zone 2 means that you are strictly burning fat in order to move forward. I've done this a couple of times now, and I tested the 10K. I thought to myself, I'm probably gonna get like a 65-minute 10K, but no, I got a 69-minute K, which means that was my slowest run ever. Then I started running the half marathons in zone 2, but a cold front came into Berlin, and it was at 0 degrees Celsius, and I realized I can't get my body warm enough in order to finish this, because you barely break a sweat. So I moved on from zone 2 to zone 3 and tried to stay always below 140. I felt this was almost a magical revelation for me, because never did I just enjoy a slow run, but also never did I focus so much on each step I took, because now I'm trying to develop efficiency at a lower heart rate. So right now I'm at the point where I'm running 3 half marathons per week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I would like to settle into these distances and have a 60K week. Every week, 240K per month. But it shouldn't end there. Right now, the goal is to feel less and less fatigue week after week running these distances of 21K, so that I can use the third training on Sunday for a longer run, where I'm going to build up on that run without ever risking injury or risking the grind in that case. So from a 21K, I want to bump it up to a 25K. After feeling well with that, I would go for a 30K, a 35K, a 40K, and a full marathon. So ideally, I would want to run 80K per week. That means 2 half marathons and a full marathon. I feel this is still going to take a couple of weeks. I don't want to push anything, but for now, this is the perspective and this is the approach. So let's summarize the strategies I've been talking about so you can bump up on volume week after week and create a plan where you reach maybe 60, 70. I mean, this is at the level I'm at right now. Maybe you're trying to run 20K per week, but nonetheless, these principles still apply in order to develop that type of capacity. So number 1, gradual increase. I can't talk enough about this, but I'm just going to leave it there. Gradual increase. Don't go from just running 5Ks to trying to run 15Ks or half marathons. Doesn't work like that. You really need to adapt. Your body needs to find out the mechanics. You need to learn about your own physiology. You might notice things. Maybe you're having a bad stride. Maybe you are having your foot landing is off, and you'll develop maybe some calf issues, maybe some shin issues, some knee issues. So learn to move incrementally and gradually so you can build up that volume on the long runs that you are planning within your week. Point number 2 is to focus really on zone 2 and zone 3. This is a low impact type of training. I mean, zone 3 is already aerobic. It's not anaerobic, where you really just drain completely the glycogen sources in your body. So zone 3 is quite enjoyable because you're breaking a sweat, and after a while, it becomes quite challenging to sustain that zone for a longer run. And zone 2 is probably the most fundamental type of training people should be doing when they're going out for endurance. I mean, ultra endurance training. And point number 3 is to listen to your body. Now, sometimes when people say that, it sounds like it's absolutely meaningless, but it has so much meaning in it because it starts early in the morning and it ends at night. So the day I wake up, I'll have my ritual, drink my water, have a coffee. Already in that situation, I'm feeling my body and asking myself, how fit do I feel today? How well recovered do I feel today? But that is not the end statement. That is just the first phase of that listening to my body, because if I have a run on that day and I go out for the run, maybe after a couple of minutes, I never warm up. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but that's not my approach. So I start running slowly, and all of a sudden, I feel better again. And it's not that I was feeling bad before, but I feel much, much better again. And then I listen to my body at the end of that run, and I ask myself, how drained am I? Am I stiff? Do I need to stretch somewhere? Do I need to mobilize? What happened during the run? And then throughout the day, listen to your hunger, listen to needs your body might have, and play it safe in such a way that you develop a somatic communication with your own body. Let me tell you, this is one great way of getting to know yourself and getting to know how you can develop the ability to test yourself. This concludes the topic on how to run longer incrementally week after week. I wonder, what is your strategy? Do you run zone 2? Do you run zone 3? Or are you just like I used to be, that I would always reach for zone 4 and 5? And if you would see the heart rate zones summary on your app, you would immediately see you barely ran in zone 2, you barely ran in zone 3, you just straight hit up the gas and you're from zone 4 peaking at zone 5, which it has its place. I'm not saying that this approach doesn't allow you to do something like that, but for me, for example, I want to test my 21K after a couple of weeks. Maybe I reach a long run of a 35K and I say, well, next week I'm not going to do a long run of 35K, I'm going to do a fast run at the 21K. And that way I'm still putting in that work where I can work speed, but since it's not my main objective to develop speed, just to develop endurance, ultra endurance level fitness, I will and need to stay in zone 2, zone 3 focused training. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, hitting that like button, and activating the notification bell. The YouTube algorithm loves that. I love that too. Keep the grind alive and see you next time.